Joshua was the successor of Moses and the man responsible for leading the people of Israel in the conquest of the Promised Land. Although Joshua's story is prominently told in the Old Testament book that bears his name, he first appears in the biblical narrative in the book of Exodus. In this video, you will understand everything the Bible says about who Joshua was and his significance in biblical history. But first, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, subscribe now and activate all notifications to follow the biblical studies we share here. The Bible states that Joshua was the son of Nun, from the tribe of Ephraim. Interestingly, Joshua's original name, given by his family, was Hosea, which means salvation. In fact, Hosea is a name that occurs frequently within the tribe of Ephraim in the biblical narrative. However, Moses altered this name by adding the divine element, calling him Yahushua, which means the Lord is salvation. This name is commonly transliterated as Joshua or Jeshua. For those who may not know, this is also the Hebrew name for Jesus, as Jesus is the Latin form of the Greek transliteration of this Hebrew name. Joshua began to gain prominence in the Bible as Moses' assistant. In Exodus 33:11, he is described as a young man chosen by Moses to be his personal aide. However, even before this, in Exodus 17, we learn that Moses entrusted him with commanding the Israelite troops in their battle against the Amalekite raiders at Rephidim. When Joshua left Egypt, he was already an adult, likely around 40 years old. Because of this, some scholars consider the possibility that he received military training in Pharaoh's army. Joshua served as Moses' direct aide during the giving of the law on Mount Sinai. He also accompanied Moses every time he went to the tent of meeting to hear the Lord. Certainly, this was a period of significant learning for Joshua. He learned to wait on the Lord and became a faithful worshiper. Additionally, he acquired traits from Moses' behavior, such as patience, meekness, and leadership. Joshua was also appointed as the representative of the tribe of Ephraim to be one of the 12 spies sent to survey the land of Canaan and its inhabitants. After the reconnaissance mission, among all the spies, only Joshua and Caleb advocated for the Israelites to proceed with the invasion of Canaan. According to the biblical text, they recognized that the land was very good. At that time, Caleb, being older, held a more prominent leadership role, which explains why he is sometimes mentioned alone. Nevertheless, the biblical context clearly indicates Joshua's participation in the reconnaissance mission and his support for Caleb's recommendations. Caleb and Joshua's behavior was much more than a military report. It was a clear demonstration of faith in God's promise concerning that land. Meanwhile, the other 10 unbelieving spies died of a plague before the Lord. Later, Joshua was officially chosen as Moses' successor on the plains near the Jordan River. When Moses realized that he would die before entering Canaan, he set Joshua apart to be the new leader of Israel, according to the Lord's command. Joshua's leadership was coordinated with the priesthood of Eleazar. Moses solemnly bestowed honor and authority on Joshua in front of the entire congregation of Israel, publicly admonishing him to be courageous and strong to fulfill the mission of leading Israel into the land that God had promised, as recorded in Deuteronomy 31:3-8. In that same chapter, we read that when Moses and Joshua went to the tent of meeting, God directly commissioned Joshua. Later, after Moses' death, God reiterated his command to Joshua and renewed his promises, encouraging him on the eve of the invasion of Canaan. After Moses' death, Joshua led the Israelites in the conquest of the Promised Land. Early in his leadership, Joshua faced 2 significant challenges. First, leading the people across the Jordan River, then defeating the Canaanite army that stood before them. Joshua sent 2 spies to gather reconnaissance on the stronghold of Jericho. These spies received assistance from Rahab, a resident of Jericho. Joshua also instructed them to keep the mission secret to avoid the same discouragement caused by the 12 spies previously sent by Moses. In Joshua chapter 3, we read how God supernaturally stopped the waters of the Jordan River, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry ground. They then marched toward Jericho. On several occasions, Joshua demonstrated complete trust in God, following divine strategies to achieve victory. A striking example is the capture of Jericho, where the people marched around the city, and on the seventh day, with the sound of trumpets and a great shout, the walls collapsed. Throughout the book of Joshua, we find examples of the incredible military actions led by him. Among them is the nighttime march to relieve the siege of Gibeon, and the battle described in chapter 10, where God sent hailstones against the enemies and made the sun stand still until the Israelites achieved victory. Joshua conquered Canaan and distributed the land among the tribes of Israel. When the time came for his leadership to end, he gathered the tribes and renewed the covenant with God. Joshua died at 110 years old and was buried in the mountains of Ephraim. His example as a man of integrity and obedience to God continues to inspire to this day. In the New Testament, the writer of Hebrews presents Joshua as a type of Christ, leading the redeemed into eternal rest in the heavenly Canaan. If you enjoyed learning about Joshua's story, leave your comment, share this video, and subscribe to our channel.